Welcome to the Land Your Bet Sports Betting Show. Looking at game 2 here. Mavericks and Timberwolves back in Minnesota. Obviously 1-0 Dallas. But real quick, what the hell was that? Just got done watching the Celtics and the Pacers. Rick Carlisle gave up with 8 minutes left, down 12 for some reason. I'm still not sure what happened in that game. Everybody just came out once Halliburton was down and hurt at the end of that one. And then they just gave up. So we ended up losing 2 bets because of that, including Halliburton not getting his, including McConnell not coming back on the floor. But we hit Obi. We had a really good live stream. We're going to be running that back at 5:30 p.m. Eastern on Friday as we look at those bets together. You guys jump in there with your bets. Jump in the comments, and then we go ahead and look at those things together, helping each other out. For now, though, I do have 5 picks here for this game 2 between the Timberwolves and the Mavericks. Feeling pretty good about it. Let's jump into some picks and predictions, and let's get it. Just like we did ahead of game 2, Celtics and Pacers, I want to revisit these matchups and just see how we were in terms of predicting these things before game 1 and how that actually played out in game 1. So it's pretty simple here for the Mavs. Everybody that you see here was just guarding the guy below them, and that was predominantly the matchups. Obviously, centers on centers. Gafford and Lively were handling Rudy Gobert, and I kind of do mean handling. PJ Washington, he was guarding Cat the whole time, did a really good job. I mean, Cat shot pretty poorly, 6 for 20, but PJ's defense was a huge part of that. Then Kyrie was on Mike Conley because Derrick Jones Jr. was on Ant Edwards. And then Luka was on Jaden McDaniels. So if you are someone who's going back to Jaden McDaniels in game 2 after his insane performance once again in game 1, I wouldn't tell you not to, honestly, because Luka Doncic is not going to try on defense. He's going to allow Jaden McDaniels to continue to get all those threes off that he wants. So there's really no reason, unless you think McDaniels is going to go cold, that you might not go back to him. I'm not personally looking into that one right now, but I will definitely be looking at it on the live stream tomorrow at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. As for the Timberwolves, a little bit of a different look than what we saw with the Mavs guarding them. Gobert was on Gafford and Lively. Cat was on PJ, but then obviously you switch up sort of the Ant Edwards and Mike Conley matchups there, where Mike Conley is on Derrick Jones Jr. and Ant Edwards is on Kyrie. Jaden McDaniels, obviously on Luka. What we saw, though, as it pertains to Ant, was that Kyrie wore him the hell down after one half where he put up that 24 in the first, which was incredible, right? He guarded Luka a little bit in terms of Ant's defense, but for the most part, Jaden is just chasing Luka everywhere, and I could say he did a pretty good job, but Luka did Luka stuff as well. We really need to see, is Ant going to continue to just hang around and guard Kyrie as much as he can? Because he said he wanted that matchup. But obviously, we thought if you were watching that game, he looked exhausted. And thank you, Reggie Miller, for pointing that out like 12 times in the fourth quarter. Like, what's wrong with Ant? Well, what's wrong with Ant is he was just chasing the best ball handler around the floor for the entire game, and Kyrie never stops running. So I don't know if they can really rely on that. The problem is what do you do if Kyrie, if you don't have Ant on Kyrie? Where do you hide him? Because now you're talking about Mike Conley guarding Ant. I don't think so. You can't take Jaden McDaniels off of Luka. So what do you do with Mike Conley? Maybe it's not his series, but I think you want him out there for the control of the offense that he shows and sort of the adult in the room that I always talk about, right? So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with the Ant defensive matchup here. We'll have to monitor that moving forward. I also wanted to show you the difference between Ant's shot chart and Luka's shot chart. So this is Ant and where he shot from in the game, and I'm pretty sure everybody's going to immediately notice that there are 4 shots that he took inside the arc, right? One of them he made that little elbow jumper on the right there in that little green circle. Everything else, 12 of those shots were from deep, right? And he hit 5 of them, and it was really impressive. But he ended the game with 16 attempts and only 4 inside the paint. And if you look at a shot chart for him versus the Denver Nuggets in the last series, everything was going to the rim. But this team here for the Mavs, incredible defense once again from J. Kidd, where he really just plays sort of like a Giannis style defense. And what I mean by that is the way that teams play Giannis is they basically just build a wall at the free throw line and don't allow him to pick up enough speed to get to the rim with a full head of steam, right? For Ant, it was the same concept. Like, you sort of saw almost like a 1-2-2 where you have Derrick Jones Jr. just chasing him around everything, but there's always a guy lurking right inside the three-point line, ready for Ant to pick him up so he can't get his full head of steam going all the way to the rim, because he's so strong and athletic that once he gets up or even starts to get up in the air, now you're screwed. You're just done, and he's going to either catch a foul or he's going to get all the way to the bucket, bang it, or lay it in, right? So that was incredible defense from J. Kidd's squad there and his sort of strategies that he brought into this game, and that is a huge reason why I think we saw Ant looking like he did with this shot chart in game 1. 3, 2, 1. As for Luka, This looks a lot different, doesn't it? Now, he took 10 more shots, but he took 2 less, though, from the three-point line. And in fact, one of those shots was that little X right inside half court because he just pulled it at the end of the half there and then started yelling at Gafford like a jerk. But we're not going to talk about that right now. My opinions on Luka's character. More importantly is his stuff inside the paint. Look at all, I mean, he sort of just took Jaden McDaniels for a ride, put him on his hip and was like, come along, young blood. We're going to be going towards the rim. I'm going to be taking shots wherever the hell I feel like it. And everything here is basically inside of 15 feet with a few just foul shot, distance field goals that he took as well there, where he made 3 of those right inside the free throw line. So everything else, man, it's like even some of those bunnies that he missed right outside the restricted area, right outside the paint, whatever, those could easily go in this next game. In fact, if I were him, I wouldn't be shooting these garbage threes that he continues to pull. A couple of them here and there. You got to keep the defense honest, and I totally get that. But we might even see a few more buckets from Luka in this next game if he's able to turn those little baby hooks and bunnies and jumpers and whatever push shots into actual buckets instead of watching them rim out. So bet number 1, I'm going to take Luka in the points battle versus Ant. So if you go to DraftKings, you can get those head-to-head player props. Love those. Now 5-1 on those in the playoffs specifically. And you don't see these until the playoffs. So don't be looking for head-to-head bets in the regular season next year. Really only get them when there's only like a game or 2 per night. And then the books, specifically DraftKings, has the option to really dive more deeply and put these head-to-head bets together. But for the points here, Luka needs to get -1.5 more than Ant. So he's got to outscore him by 2 for us to win this bet. -115 on DraftKings for a full unit. One thing I just talked about, Ant-Man fatigue. I don't know what the solution is. I other than Mike Conley subs out for a guy like Naz Reid or probably Nickeil Alexander-Walker or probably Slow-Mo Anderson, Kyle Anderson, probably also going to get a few more minutes. Might be the first dude off the bench for this squad in game 2 because he did pretty well guarding Luka a little bit, but more importantly, he allows other dudes to guard Luka, or at least Jaden McDaniels to guard Luka. He can come in and guard Kyrie, and that should allow Ant to guard someone like Derrick Jones Jr. Problem is you want Mike Conley's offense on the floor. So it's a cat and mouse game that we'll have to see how it ends up. But for now, I'm going to assume that Ant is going to be a little bit out of breath when it comes to guarding Luka and Kyrie, because it's like not even your turn, my turn now for Luka and Kyrie. It's your half, my half. They just sort of take turns each half now, taking over on offense. As soon as one of them tires out the defense with all his energy, Kyrie was tired in the second half, Luka took over, right? And if you look at the way Luka's playing this team, it's going to take a lot of points from Ant to get there. I don't know if he's going to be able to do that without being able to get all the way to the rim like we saw in the prior 2 series as opposed to this game 1. But for Luka, 35 points a game now versus the Wolves this season in the 3 games that he's played against them. 26 attempts from the field per game, 7 free throw attempts, 49% from the field, 33% from deep. Why I really think that's important to bring up, that's basically his numbers from game 1. This is exactly what he did in game 1. So there's a level of consistency here and recurring consistency for Luka that really makes it easy to believe that he's going to get another 30 points in this, which his prop is now up at about 29.5, and Ant is down at about 26, 27.5, depending on where you find it right now. That right there tells me the books already think that this is going to be about a 2 to 3 point spread between Luka's points and Ant's points. I'm going to take it for -115 on DK. And we're not done yet with those Luka bets. I'm going back to him as well for under 4.5 turnovers. That's -130 on DraftKings. So a full unit on that, and you might call it a little bit of a bankroll builder, but this feels like a really good bet for Luka for a couple of reasons. 1, 5 turnovers is a ton. It's not a ton for a guy who touches the ball necessarily as much as Luka, so it's still a fair line. But 5 is a lot of turnovers. You have to have a particularly bad game to get 5. He's gone under this in 5 of his last 6 versus the Wolves, dating back to 2 seasons ago. But also, he's gone under in all 3 of these games with Kyrie on the floor versus Minnesota, right? So Kyrie came, they played 1 in the end of that 2022-23 season, and he went under there. Then Kyrie missed a game this season against the Wolves, 8 turnovers for Luka in that game. Every other game, pretty cleanly under, a couple with 4, and then a bunch more with 3. He's looking to score more than he's looking to pass. And I want to make sure I don't mess these numbers up. So I'm going to read them off real quick, because if you look at the way that Luka was being used during the regular season and even prior to this game 1 in the playoffs, 51 passes is what we saw him make in game 1. 56 passes per game during the regular season. And in the playoffs, 59 passes per game. So he made 8 fewer passes in game 1 than he has averaged in the rest of these playoffs, right? Then you look at the touches in general. He had 86 touches in game 1. He had 92 per game in the regular season, 93 per game in the playoffs. So another 7 touches drop, essentially, for Luka in game 1 compared to his averages in the playoffs. Couple things going on there. Kyrie takes the pressure off of you, right? So now you really don't need to mess too much with having the ball in your hands the entire time. Kyrie can handle that for you when you need either a breather, or it keeps you from having to force things and make bad passes. You know you've got an outlet in Kyrie that can handle whatever. Plus, he's really not looking to pass. His potential assists down to about 13 in this last game. On the season, he's up at like 18, and in the playoffs, that's been his average as well, 18 to 19 at times on those potential assists for Luka. So a lot of stuff just dropping in terms of his, not necessarily usage, because that indicates shots, and he's taking plenty of shots, still a very high usage rate. But you can't turn the ball over while you're shooting, only while you're passing. And that's not something that he's looking to do nearly as much in this series, because he knows he's just going to be able to continue to get into the lane. Rudy keeps playing that drop defense, which is just terrible for the Timberwolves defense, as Luka then has all the room and space in the world that he wants. If they're not going to bring a guy up on him, then I'm going to continue to feel like he's not going to get 5 turnovers, and we'll take him to go under for minus 130 in this one. How about a bet for someone not named Luka? Let's go back to PJ here. And I've got this in a really, I don't know, like, I love the way that I have this, is what I'm trying to say. I love this little same game parlay for PJ Washington. 2+ threes made, 5+ rebounds. He's done that in his last 8 games. So, like, I don't know what we're doing here. Our guy just keeps getting these numbers like it's his job, which it really is at this point, because he's their best spot-up shooter. And he had poor shooting in this last game. He went 2 for 8 from 3. Guess what? That still gets us 2 threes, right? As far as the rebounds, he had 7 boards on 13 rebound chances. And that's basically what he's been at since the Clippers series. So in the Clippers series, he had 4 of those 6 games with 5 rebounds and 1 with 4, right? Only went over the rebounds 1 time. Since then, he's played 7 games. He's averaged 13 rebound chances here and 8 boards, right? As far as the points go, 13 field goal attempts per game, 17 points per game. So if you wanted to do like a PR kind of play for him as well, I'm fine with that. I think you can still get over 17.5 points and rebounds combined for PJ, but it's going to be a little bit worse juice. Or you can get the 18.5 PR combined. And if you want to take that bet as well, no problem with it. But the fact that I'm getting so close to even money for him to do something that he's just done with regularity at this point in the playoffs, I'm going to take it, right? The threes, he's been at 8 attempts per game, 3.6 made in that time span, and 2+ in all of them since that Clippers series. So I got to keep going with PJ Washington to get his from deep and to get those boards. We're going to take him on this little same game parlay for minus 115. And how about the Rook? Derek Lively, over 16.5 points, rebounds, and assists. Even money there. I'm going to put a full unit on it, man. I know the books are giving this not quite as much of the implied probability that we might like. It's a 50-50 shot when you have even money as your odds, but I still really like this. I like adding the assists as well, because our guy has been diming up. He had 3 in both of the last 2 games, and the dimes are a pretty good look. Shout out my guy Daft Previews, who also mentioned this before game 1, that he liked assists for Gafford and Lively. Gafford didn't come through. Lively came through in spades with 3 of them. He's got 1+ assists too in almost every playoff game so far this season, 11 of 13 in this postseason, right? As far as the number here for PRA, if he gets 20 minutes, he should be good to go. And he out-minuted Gafford in game 1, right? It was about 27 minutes for Lively and 22 for Gafford. And they're going to do that. Their minutes are usually going to add up to 48 exactly, because they just stagger and never really play with each other at all at the same time, which I was thinking maybe Kidd might get them on the floor at the same time, and I wanted to see how that would impact their stats. But I think you just got to trust Lively a bit more. He kind of made it seem like Rudy's not fit for this series, to be honest, because he was so quick, and Gafford was a little bit stronger, but man, Lively was all over the place with those rebounds. He had 27 rebound chances in that game. And now that means he's averaging 24 per game in his last 2 after a really big game 6 to close out the Thunder from Lively as well. In the playoffs in general, he's at 16 rebound chances per game. Right. And he wasn't really getting 20 minutes with any regularity before the end of this last Thunder series. Now we just saw him play 26.5 minutes in this last game. You got to believe that Kidd has really started to trust this kid. Kidd has started to trust this kid a lot. so far moving forward in the playoffs, right? It was his quickness. Like I was saying, like the rebounds that he got were just a matter of him never stopping moving or standing still. He's just always moving, always looking to get around Rudy rather than try to go through him. Gafford had a little bit more success going through him, to be honest. Like he can bang with Rudy. I don't know if the Lively's necessarily strong enough yet to really just go force against force, but that quickness is a problem, and it was on the tip-ins. It was on the slams that he caught in the alleys that he caught from Luka and Kyrie. I'm just going to continue to believe in him as long as I believe that he's going to get 25-plus minutes, then I'm going to believe he's going to get 17 points, rebounds, and assists. And that is all the time that I have for you guys in this one. Going to be coming back with that live stream tomorrow. You already know, 5:30 p.m. Eastern, as we're doing every day. Game 2 here for Dallas and Minnesota. So tune in, bring your bets, jump in the comments. We'll go through that stuff together, and you can learn a little bit more as a group, as we know. So having a good time in there with y'all. Also got the Discord live, like I keep mentioning. The link is in the description of the video. A lot of good looks coming in there. We put it together a couple extra bets today in the Discord before this game that really got me into a good spot, including Nembhard, who was one of the only dudes to show up for the Pacers, as well as Pascal. So we hit a couple really nice ones that we put in late after these videos with a bit more time to watch and a bit more eyes watching things and throwing out suggestions and stuff like that. So come be a part of the community, come kick it, come get some bets. We'll have a good time. Until I see you next, happy betting.